Today's lesson's on topographic maps. Get ready to learn. You may have seen these maps where there are lines that seem to follow what's underneath them. Did you know? The surface of the Earth is not flat. Well, we have mountains and valleys. A topographic map shows the features of the Earth, and it does it in a very special way. We can measure a mountain or a valley by measuring the height or depth above sea level. So we can measure the height of one mountain, say it's 1,000 feet. It's 1,000 feet above sea level. So this way we have a constant way of measuring. A terrain map includes all the landforms of a region. Now the word terrain is French and it comes from piece of the earth or ground or the land. So a terrain map includes the landforms of a region. Why is this important? Well, looking at a map, we can see and measure features of the Earth. It helps us plan cities and control flooding. You can see here a river valley and the river meanders around. Now, topographic map. All slices of a topographic map are the same size. In other words, if you look at a piece of bread, all the slices are the same size. So if I took a mountain and I had a really big knife and I sliced that mountain at the same interval, I would come up with different size slices. Just like here, you can see, we draw it, the next slice here, and then the next slice, and then the next slice. But these are different. Let me change colors. These are different measurements here. And if you stack them all together, you could recreate this picture. Same with a mountain, just a lot bigger. Let's look at an island. If I were to walk along this line here, I would always be at the same height above sea level, all the way around the mountain, or the island. If I went to the next line, let's see, 50-meter contour intervals. So in other words, between sea level and this first line, everywhere on this line is 50 meters above the ocean. This next one is 50, and 50 is 100. So everywhere I walked, if I was on that line, everywhere I walked, I would be 100 meters above the water. And you could see that sometimes they're even marked on the map, so you don't have to count. And even though these two are different areas, we can calculate the difference in height of this area as opposed to this one. This one, let's see, this contour line is 150. So the next one's 200. So this one's 200. This is 150. This one's 200. This one's 250. So by knowing how the lines are put on the map, we can tell how high something is relative to sea level. Now, the contour interval is simply the interval between contour lines. In this case, it's listed right here. It's 50 meters. And that means that between each line, you have to go uphill 50 meters. Now, if contour lines are close together, like these are, it looks like a mountain. That's because it is a mountain. If they're gentle rise or fall, like down here, see how they're kind of spread out as you go to the bottom from the mountain? They spread out, more gentle. So this would be less of a steepness than compared to these mountains here. If they're close together, they're steep. Oh, think about it. If each one is, say, what do we have here? 50 meters between this line and this line, and it's 50 meters between this line and this line. Let me make it bigger. If it's 50 between this one and this one, then it's 50 between there and there, and there and there, and oh boy, it's getting closer here. I don't go that far to go up 50 more meters. So you can tell how mountainous something is by how many contour intervals you have. And you can tell how flat something is by how many you don't have. These are close and these are spread out. Hills. The contour lines meet. They go all the way around the hill, and they meet because you can walk all the way around the hill. And the highest is always in the center. Now, sometimes you'll get an X, and that would be the peak of the hill or mountain. Now, sometimes you go up a hill and then you go down. It's got a depression. The contour lines meet again. They go all the way around. But instead of going up the hill, you're actually going down. Think like a valley. Not so much a valley, but a depression where material is gone. They have something called hash marks to show direction. Here are the hash marks. And they go towards the center of the depression. One way to think about this is if I had a paint roller and I painted this line with the roller and it leaked. You know how paint runs down? Which way would the drops go? Which way would it run? It would run towards the center. That's a way to know where the depression is. Now, we have a map that is just rivers. And they're usually labeled, and they're usually labeled in blue for some reason. Now, on a contour map, the contour lines always point uphill. Let me show you two of these. These contour lines, they always point uphill. So this area here is a lot higher than this, and that makes sense. Here's another one. You see? And if you see that, the material that was here is now somewhere else, usually downstream in a river. And that's why the river erodes this area. And you see the contour lines pointing uphill. River maps, the rivers are labeled. Usually you can find them on a topographic map because they point uphill. So why is this important? Looking at a map, we can see and measure features, and it helps us plan cities and control flooding. There's your lesson on topographic